Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Conn and the Stick. I'm your host, Justin Conley, joined with my co-host, Nick Smith, the Stick. We're going to be going over Week 6 in the NFL and going over what we saw, what we liked. We're going to maybe go into it like a little bit of almost like what we think, teams that are surprised us, players we've really liked so far in between, and then get into our Week 7 predictions. Following the same format that we've been doing the last couple of weeks. So without further ado, let's get into it. And I think we need to start with we're going to start with Sunday night and what was an absolutely incredible game between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Patriots. Patriots sneaking one out there.
Oh yeah, both offenses just firing away. Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady just slinging a rock around. It was actually good to see Tom Brady finally start to feel like get a connection with Josh Gordon. They used Gordon more this week than they have the previous 2 weeks. Tom Brady says he loves his work ethic and what he's seen from Josh Gordon so far with the Patriots. And that Chiefs offense is just putting up 40 points again. Just that fourth quarter was just touchdown after touchdown for both teams. Tyreek Hill, long play after long play. You know what? And this could very easily be an AFC Championship game that we're looking at in the
I
future.
I completely agree. I mean, we're finally seeing the Patriots that we have been known to seeing. We didn't see at the beginning of the season within those first 2 games and those first 3 games. But I mean, it's good to see Tom Brady clicking with his guys. You know, he has Edelman back. He has Gronkowski. He was connecting with Josh Gordon, which is what we were all fearing. And I mean, the Patriots are back to their form. But let's not take anything away from the Chiefs, who, well, they gave up, I think, 33 points, was it, or 43?
Oh, 43 points they give up.
43 points. I mean, they looked, they held on, without their best player in Justin Houston. And that's important to see. Mahomes had a shaky start to the game, but really relied on the guy who just seems to have the Patriots' number, Kareem Hunt. For the second straight year, had a very strong performance. Not as strong as he had last year in his first NFL game, but definitely a good game nonetheless. Tyreek Hill putting on the burners like he usually does. So if you're a Chiefs fan, you don't take this really as something that's oh well, we lost the game. Well, you're not gonna go undefeated. It's almost nearly impossible when it comes to the NFL. But there's something to look forward to for the future because you compete in Foxborough, you can compete in anywhere.
Yeah, and Chiefs are down with 2 or 3 minutes left to go. They answered right back and took the lead, but Tom Brady gets the ball last. Well, they tied it up with the touchdown of Hill, and Tom Brady just was able to run out the clock for the game-winning field goal. And one thing that came out from the Patriots, which was a big part of the game, Sony Michel finally had 100 yards rushing, really helping them out. And if Tom Brady could get a running attack with him, that just makes the passing game even more explosive because, teams are going to have to respect the run. And if Michelle could keep it up, this offense is going to be primed for 30 points a week almost.
Almost seems like the analysts were actually true. We're seeing more of a stronger runner. I mean, him sharing all the spotlight with other Georgia running back Nick Chubb, but like analysts said, they preferred Sony Michel, and he's absolutely proving why. Other notable games really this week. A 10 seconds left in the game, Steelers pull out another one against the Bengals. Antonio Brown showing what Antonio Brown can do.
Oh, yeah, another, like we said, these two teams, division rivals, always going to play close games. And this is a game the Steelers really needed because if the Bengals went 5-1 to start off this season and Steelers would have been 2-3-1, it would have been really a tough climb to come back to win that division. So huge win by the Steelers to really pull that one off in the crunch time. Antonio Brown hasn't had the great start that we've all been expected, but you know what? He comes in the clutch and he pulls off a victory for the Steelers.
Another notable game which was very exciting to watch, and as much as I do enjoy watching my team, Miami Dolphins with Brock Osweiler under center, not even Ryan Tannehill. Brock Osweiler, who has been deemed the bear killer after this one. I like to call him Grizzly Adams now because in three first game starts for both the Broncos, the Texans, and the Dolphins. He has won against the Bears. And in a crazy game that we saw late in the week, Ryan Tannehill was going to be out. We didn't know what to expect from Brock Osweiler. Well, it was it wasn't really star-studded. It was definitely Brock Osweiler throwing for almost 400 yards, and he's going to be starting this week. Are you buying it?
I'm not buying it at all, but it's a good first week for him. He got the victory for the Dolphins, but I've seen enough from Brock Osweiler with the end of his career, well, the end of his time at Denver, and just his entire stint on Houston. It didn't look good. He got benched in Houston, and I don't know. I find it tough for him to really keep it going. He has some speedy receivers to help him out, and you got guys like Danny Amendola. Also, he had a great rushing attack. Frank Gore over 100 yards really helped him out. But I can't see Brock Osweiler consistently performing, throwing up almost 400 yards. But you know what? Hats off to him. He had a good game. He beat a really good defense in the Chicago Bears. Uh, I'm surprised maybe the Bears took him lightly or something. I don't know because we've seen them get after better quarterbacks, but
Bears are a team that struggles on the road a little bit more than other teams, and that's what makes me believe that we might see another strong performance from Brock Osweiler again this week. The Lions, another team that is not really a good road team, and we see the Dolphins have really been in these last couple of years have been a really strong team at home, and especially this season where they have really been in games that maybe they shouldn't be in, but they have not lost at home yet. They always find a way to come back in this one. I'm expecting another strong performance from maybe Brock Osweiler and against a up and down. You don't know which Lions team you're going to get. A really closer than average game than we thought. The Packers only pulling out a 3-point game against the 49ers. And 49ers are a team that really is one of my teams that I'm shocked by and how they're being able to perform without Jimmy Garoppolo. Not too bad. I mean, I don't know if they've actually won a game yet without him, but definitely competing against some teams like the Chargers and the Packers.
no, they're definitely competing. Beathard has been playing really well. Marquise Goodwin finally had a really huge game, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. They were into the final second. Mason Crosby had his comeback game. He missed the 4 field goals and the extra point the week before. Comes back. I think he's like 3 for 3 on field goals and hits the game winner. So, and Aaron Rodgers with like 50 seconds left and no timeouts drives 70 yards down the field. I don't know how the Niners let all those receivers catch comebacks and just fall out of bounds like they did in that last drive. But you know what? Hats off to Green Bay for pulling that one off. But no, you're correct. We didn't expect much from. Well, we thought this Niners team would be better off because we expected Jimmy G to be there. The injury, of course, hurts. But even with the injury, they're playing close, tight games and they're playing competitive football. And that's all they can really ask for at this point. But no, you're right. We have seen a lot from the Niners, and hopefully they can keep these strong performances going forward.
Let's talk. I mean, a couple other games. I was picking the Redskins to beat the Panthers this week. It happened. I think the Redskins are a pretty strong team when you don't think they're gonna be. Seattle and the Oakland, not even close in London that week.
Yeah, Oakland just looks like a mess. They can't get anything going on offense. They can't even get. Well, Amari Cooper got hurt in the first half. He got concussed. But just they can't find anything going on in that offense. And now they have trade rumors flying around, getting rid of Carr, getting rid of Cooper. But just this first season for John Gruden just hasn't been anything of what this team has looked for. And they're getting blown out by teams like Seattle that they should be beating or at least playing competitively. So Oakland definitely needs to find something to click, or changes are going to be made pretty soon rather than later.
Absolutely. The Eagles' domination on Thursday Night Football looks like the era of Eli Manning is coming to an end there in New York.
Yeah, just the Giants' offense just kind of looks inept. They can't. Besides Saquon Barkley, they just have absolutely nothing going right now. Barkley is like the passing and the rushing offense because I feel like just Eli, all he does is dump it off to him. It's a good option from time to time, but you got a guy like Odell Beckham Jr. He's only getting like 4 catches. Like you gotta try to get this guy maybe some bubble screens, just quick slants. You gotta find a way to get the ball in this guy's hands. But you know what? The Eagles played well on defense. They made sure Odell didn't beat him over the top, and it's a good win for the Eagles. The NFC East is not looking very strong at all right now, and even though the Eagles are off to a rough start, none of these teams. Well, the Redskins are playing pretty well right now, but the Eagles should be able to walk away with this division just the way the overall talent has been there.
Yeah, I mean, those Derek Carr rumors to the Giants seem pretty good if you're a New York Giants fan. So, I mean, that could be a guy that could fill in those shoes really quickly and get the ball out to Odell.
It's just
Uh,
need an offensive line.
it's That's a piece of work. Well, they started on the right foot with Eric Flowers
Yeah,
getting
he's
cut.
gone.
Speaking of Eric
He got
Flowers,
signed though.
signed to the Jacksonville
Yeah.
Jaguars, and the Jaguars, while he didn't play, have felt the full force of Eric Flowers because they were my shocker of the week. They were dismantled by the Cowboys. And for a Jacksonville Jaguars defense that has the most talent defensively to let up 40 points, they need to go down and sit in the meeting room and understand and try to figure out what the heck is happening, because when you're losing to a average team at best by the Cowboys, it really scares me for Jacksonville's for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it's not even that giving up 40 points is awful, but they gave up 40 points to the Dallas Cowboys, a team that doesn't even really have a staple receiver. Like Alex Hearns, he's solid, but and they got Ezekiel Elliott, but Dak Prescott's nothing special. Like none of the other receivers are anything great. So, and for a defense as good as Jaguars have with Ramsey and Boye and all those guys, you can't be doing this. They need to get it together quickly. And offensively, they're also not looking good as well. Bortles hasn't looked good in the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think the injury to Fournette is really affecting their offense. They can't figure things out, but hopefully Jacksonville could get it going soon.
Yeah, I mean, because when push comes to shove, you're in a tight division like the AFC South is right now. It doesn't look good for Jacksonville. And what happens when you get to the playoffs and you got to play a team like the Chiefs or the Patriots? So, other games and scores: the Rams barely squeaked one out against the Broncos in a game that I felt was the score reflected how more closely than it actually was. Vikings take a 27-17 victory over the Cardinals. Nathan Peterman strikes again as he throws a pick six, allowing the Texans to win 20-13. Let's talk about your Jets for a second. Jason Myers, the leg, 7 for 7
for
on field
7.
goals.
It's crazy. Jets scored 42 points and it's 7 field goals. If they even get half of those as touchdowns, they're dropping 60. But I just feel like the Jets are moving the ball great on offense all day. Sam Darnold had an interception early, but was able to turn it around, played really well. The rushing attack was average. It wasn't as great as was the previous week with Crowell going for 200, but Andrew Luck looked pretty. Besides the early pick six, well, the receivers didn't help him out at all. But Luck looked phenomenal. He was throwing the ball all over the Jets defense, and he's answered a lot of questions. Like if we could come back with not playing for 2 years, like how it would look. He threw for 300 more yards, had 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he had 3 interceptions, but some of those were balls bouncing off his guy's hands right into the Jets defender. So Andrew Luck's doing all he can with limited talent right now, and at least he's making these games close for the Colts.
Yeah, I mean it's the Colts are definitely benefiting from the fact that Andrew Luck's back. It's not so much that they're winning games, but they're showing life, and that's a good sign moving forward. So. And then we show exactly the inconsistency when it comes to the Tennessee Titans as they get shut out 21-0 to the Ravens. So AFC South definitely up in the air, especially with the 3 games win streak of the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think Jaguars and Houston are tied for first. I think both at 3-3. Oh no, it's a three-way tie because Tennessee Titans are 3-3 too. So yeah, right now it's very tough division. They're all neck and neck at 3-3. Well, besides the Colts, of course. But one of these teams, they all got talent. Jacksonville, definitely the most talented of all of them. But if one team could figure out sooner than the other, get on a roll, such as the Texans are right now, you could run away with this division the way how inconsistent the rest of these teams are playing.
So we're almost halfway through the season. I mean, we're getting there, and I just wanted to talk with you. We'll go over both the teams that have impressed you the most, teams that you are the most disappointed in, players, and then we'll also go into players you think have been performing the best, players you think are dark horse guys that you've really been impressed with this season, and guys who have underperformed this season. How about we start with teams? Who is the team that has impressed you the most this season
Hmm.
right now?
Team that's impressed. Honestly, just because besides last week, they've been in every game. They should have a better record. Cleveland right now is 2-3-1. Yeah, it's not an outstanding record, but last year they went 0-16. They're already looking much better this year. They have promise on defense. Baker Mayfield looks pretty solid. Last week was a rough one. You know, they got beat up pretty good by the Chargers, but he's been decisive with the ball. They should have beat the Steelers, which they tied. The week after, they could have won as well. What was who they play week 2? Viking?
No, the
No,
Saints.
Saints. They could have beat the Saints. That was like a 3-point game. And then they go on to beat the Jets in the Baker Mayfield game, his first game. But this team could easily have 4 wins. And that's a huge step from a team that went 0-16 last year. They've had a lot of change culture wise. I'm really impressed with what I've seen so far from Cleveland. Uh, the record doesn't show something great, but you know what? Sometimes football is more than just a record. It's a culture thing. You got to build slowly. You don't become a playoff team overnight. And Cleveland's really going in the right step, and I'm excited to see where the future's going forward.
I had a couple teams in mind when it comes to the team that's impressed me the most. I could say the Los Angeles Rams, but we sat here.
Weeks,
But I'm also going
yeah.
off the basis of the fact of just things that we talked about and we did our division breakdowns earlier in the summer. I'm basing it off of that. I could go with the Los Angeles Rams, but we all saw that the dominance that they are showing, we knew that was going to happen. Kansas City is another team that's been very impressed with me. Uh, but with the playmakers, I mean, we had them at the bottom of the division, and they've surely proved us wrong. But I wasn't too sure about Patrick Mahomes. I was sure that this team wasn't going to be good, and they have completely proven me wrong. Not so far away from Cleveland. We're going to see them stay in the division. How about the Cincinnati Bengals and how they have been? I think they're 4-2 right now,
Four and
sitting here
two.
4-2.
Yeah,
They have Andy Dalton's been clicking on offense,
he has
and
been.
they've
He
been
has
able
been
to
very
get
well.
guys, and their playmakers really have been just phenomenal so far. Yeah, you lose Tyler Eifert, and that's never good when you have your starting tight end, especially a guy with the caliber that when Tyler Eifert was healthy, just a few years back, he was one of the better tight ends in the league. But the thing is that they've been getting out of guys, and I said the only way you stop the Bengals is by stopping AJ Green. Well, now they've got a much more playmakers on offense that are making plays. Joe Mixon has stepped into that role of playing the starting running back beautifully, taking over and allowing Giovanni Bernard, who's still recovering from an injury, but even Giovanni Bernard has played very well when he's been healthy this season. How about the emergence of Tyler Boyd, who we saw late last year, step into a role? He caught that big touchdown at the end of the year to send the Bills to the playoffs. And even defensively, guys like Sam Hubbard, who's a rookie, have been very impressive to me so far. So the Cincinnati Bengals are a team that I did not expect to be even close to where they would have start the season. Yes, they took a loss to Pittsburgh, and that's a team that you got to beat in order for you to win the division. But I think that if the Bengals play their cards right, they may or may not be able to sit at the top of that division at the end of the year. So very impressed with the Cincinnati Bengals. Uh, Team that I am the most disappointed in. It's got to be the New York Giants. I mean, this was a team that I thought, could even compete with the Eagles a little bit. They got Saquon Barkley. They got a new head coach, a guy that I thought Pat Sherman was going to turn this offense around, get things back to going. Uh, uh, the defense was talented. They just had to play off the fact that their offense wasn't producing. But now we're seeing the same Giants team that we saw last year. You know, they sit at 1-5, and even though Saquon Barkley's playing lights out, it all falls on the shoulder of Eli Manning, who, yes, the offensive line isn't great, but he just looks so paranoid in the backfield, and you see even when the pressure's not there, he just is not getting the ball out right. He's panicking. He's not stepping up in the pocket. His feet, like, he steps back into his drop and then there's cement. He's not getting the ball to his playmakers on offense. You know, they have great receivers. They have Odell. They have Sterling Shepard. They've got Evan. Well, they're going to get Evan Ingram back. But and you can even dump the ball to Saquon Barkley, who's the most versatile back, I think, in terms, even in the NFL. I mean, besides Todd Gurley, he's the most versatile back, in my opinion, because he could just beat you a number of ways. But the Giants have just not been, I mean, they've just suffered so much this season. They're not doing things right offensively, and I think that that's hurting their defense. Even guys like Landon Collins are making too many mistakes. So the Giants are definitely my most disappointing team because I expected big things, and now we might be looking at a top 5 pick.
Yeah, I'm gonna go across the coast. I'm gonna go with the Oakland Raiders this year. 1-5 right now. John Gruden. They bring him in. They bring in Jordy Nelson, which I think is a big move. Um, Derek Carr another year under his belt. Marshawn Lynch gets the rust off, and everything's just blowing up for them. Offensively, they can't get anything going. They can only score 3 points against a broken down Seattle defense without Earl Thomas. Um, Marshawn Lynch has had like one solid game this year. Amari Cooper can't even get more than 2 catches in a game, and now he's hurt. Jordy Nelson has a big catch 2 weeks ago, and just this week has like 3 targets, 2 catches, 6 yards, nowhere to be found. Besides Jared Cook, just nothing on that offense looks impressive right now, and even him last week didn't get anything done. And defensively, they're giving up like 30 points a week to almost every team. They even gave up 27 points to Seattle last week, so they can't stop anything. And this is a team I thought could have easily been 9-7, wild card spot or so. And you know what? Now they're looking to trade away everyone. First they gave away Mac, now potentially giving away Carr and Amari Cooper. And it's sad because I had big expectations for this team, but sitting at 1-5, and the direction they're going in doesn't look like it's going to get any better for them.
Definitely going to be rebuilding next year and seeing exactly where where John Gruden and the Raiders want to go with this. So now we go to players, and let's talk about, like, you know, maybe the big name guys that people are talking about. Which guy has impressed you the most this season?
The one that's definitely surprised me most is Patrick Mahomes, just because, you know, his first year coming right out, like starting right off, and he starts off 5-0. Of course, the loss last week to New England. His offense still dropped 40 points, though, in that loss. Dude starts off the year breaking records for like most touchdowns in like 2 weeks or something like that for someone starting off a year. But just that Chiefs team in general, just playing phenomenal. Tyreek Hill, just huge game after huge game. But Mahomes does have the weapons around him, certainly help him out. But definitely didn't expect this at all. And right now, he's probably the front runner for MVP. So this is why the Chiefs are where they're at. You know, great quarterback play is going to help you out. Yes, he has explosive weapons around him, but honestly, I did not expect this type of performance from this young guy.
Patrick Mahomes, definitely a guy that I considered. We talk about Todd Gurley and the fact that if you're a fantasy owner of Todd Gurley, you're getting more than 20 points a week. How about we talk about a guy that we didn't expect to be to really fill the shoes of a guy that's not there? Let's talk about James Conner, because he has impressed me the most this season because of the fact that he had such big shoes to fill, and especially with a guy with Le'Veon Bell as the Steelers. And he has come in here and he's scored almost every single week that he's played in. And he's catching the ball out of the backfield. He's running and getting them extra yards. He's been a vocal point of this offense all year. And you had those shoes to fill. I mean, we'll talk about the story of James Conner, you know, beating Hodgkin's lymphoma halfway through his college career, finishing off, getting drafted by, he was University of Pittsburgh guy, getting drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, and his name gets called. Le'Veon Bell, he wants a bigger contract. He holds out. He's still holding out. James Conner, you know what? You're the guy. It's the next man up thing, and he has played beautifully so far. So hats off to James Conner. He's just one of those great success stories, and I can't wait to see this success story continue because all the most utmost respect for a guy like James Conner. Um, let's talk about dark horse guys that not a lot of people are talking about. Maybe they don't realize how quietly of a season they're having. I'll take this one. And how about tight end for the Colts, Eric Ebron, a guy that I knew was going to be really good coming out of college, and then he gets drafted to a team like Detroit, who was really in desperate need of a tight end. And he comes out, and Detroit, as you know, don't really use tight ends. And so he kind of goes by the wayside. And it's a talented guy, a guy that can really stretch the fields, got great hands, can make a lot of plays, but Detroit never used him. He gets a fresh new start for the Colts, and he is having quietly one of the best years for a tight end. So, I'm excited to continue to see Eric Ebron, but that's a guy that, maybe you don't realize how good of a season he's having. Eric Ebron, his career reignited with the Indianapolis Colts.
Oh no, I sort of agree with that because when he was at Detroit, he didn't get much going at all. It's good to see his career get revived like that. Because that sometimes they just don't work out in certain systems, and this is just one of them. My dark horse, it's kind of, I was thinking around. I thought of some guys, but I thought maybe they're a little bit more well known. But then I was thinking about quarterbacks, and like this guy, everyone knows the quarterbacks around the league. But when you think of this guy, he's not one of those guys you're like, oh, this guy's top notch, he's awesome, or he's top 10. But you know what? He's on the only undefeated team right now in the NFL, and well, I just draw a blank of his name. I had his name in his head.
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff, yeah. I don't know. I literally had it in my head.
You pick him as your dark horse, can't even remember his name.
I had it in my head, and I went to go say it, and I'm like, what's his name? Jared Goff. No, he's been playing phenomenal. It helps that he is Todd Gurley. But you know what? He's undefeated right now. There's questions if he's capable of leading a team as talented as the Rams to a Super Bowl. Last year, he was all right. He took a step forward. And this year, he's playing even better than last year. He's had a good season with Cooper Kupp, who's now hurt. Sadly, very gruesome injury last week. Brandon Cooks has been playing really well. He's just been spreading the ball out, and he's been very productive. He's dropping, fantasy-wise, he's dropping many touchdowns a week. Last week was his first, I think, poor game of the season, but he went against a very good Denver defense. And Todd Gurley picked up the slack for him. But Jared Goff, even against Minnesota, he threw for 5 touchdowns, and that's a really good Minnesota defense. So Jared Goff, not a top-tier guy, but you know what? He's been playing really good this year. And excited to see where he keeps going this year and see how long he can keep this Rams team undefeated.
Yeah, and it's true. I really do agree too that Jared Goff has been very good so far for the Rams, and while it hasn't been perfect, but there's like you said, a lot of pressure for a guy like that to have to lead a team with a high caliber. And you have so much expectations going on with you. You're trying to perform the best you can, and so but Jared Goff, he doesn't really have a big name receiver. Yes, we have Brandon Cooks, but that's a guy that you're dealing with a lot of shifty. You can't really throw over the top kind of, you can't throw the ball up and expect all of them to catch it kind of guys. But Jared Goff has done very well so far with what he's been handed. And so props out to him for what he's been able to do. Let's talk about guys that maybe were a little bit disappointing this season. Why don't you start this one off?
Well, I have one name right off the bat, but just injuries kill him. I was really expecting a huge season for Leonard Fournette. Um, another year with Jacksonville offense, another year with Blake Bortles. You think maybe you get a little better, that offense would progress, really maybe open things up for Fournette, but just his hamstrings killing him right now. Like he came back for one game and he gets injured right back in that game in like the first half, and it's sad to see because he's such a talented guy. He had such a great season last year. I was expecting even more from him this year, and he's played maybe like a game and a half this year. It feels like,
Yeah.
and um, it's just upsetting. It's not that like he's not performing. Well, he's not on the field, so he's not performing. But it's not like he's playing bad. But just injuries kill, and it's tough to see. And this is why this Jacksonville team is where they're at right now. They're 3-3 when they're definitely a team that should probably be 5-1. They should have beat Dallas. That is a game they should win, and they get blown out 40-7. And it shows that one guy sometimes makes a really big difference on a team. You don't have your great running attack. You know what? And your quarterback's forced to throw the ball more often, and he's a little inaccurate from time to time. They get 3-and-outs. Defense gets tired real quickly. Things spiral downward. So just this whole Leonard Fournette situation in Jacksonville, I think, is probably the key reason why they're not in sole possession in first place. So it's upsetting. Right now, he's probably my biggest disappointment right now, just because of the injury factor.
My guy really this year isn't. I expected him to come back from an injury, and it's tough sometimes. You don't always come back from your true form. Only certain guys have really come back from their true form and have performed to the best to like a substantial guys like Adrian Peterson, who have come back from injury and was 9 yards away from breaking the single season rushing record that Eric Dickerson's held for so many years. But I expected this guy to really be more of a force for the Arizona Cardinals, and that's David Johnson. I mean, he's while he's putting up consistent numbers every week, they're not really good numbers. Yes, he scored about 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, but he hasn't had a game over 75 yards rushing the ball. This is a guy I think all of us expected to come back, rush for 100 yards, but he hasn't even done that yet. He hasn't had one 75-yard game, let alone 100 yards. And maybe it's because they're still trying to find an identity with the passing game. Josh Rosen steps into a starting role for the Arizona Cardinals. I think they won the other day, so we don't have a defeated team. We don't have any
No, we
teams
don't.
going 0-16 this year. But
Very early in the season, too, for everyone to have a win. I feel like usually there's one that's like 0-9, 0-10, but everyone got their win pretty early this year.
David Johnson has a chance. He's going to make it against Denver.
yeah, we'll see. We've got Scott Bargson here, former guest on the show, saying radical things about Johnny Manziel. We have surprisingly let him come back here. Is expecting a big game from David Johnson, though, from tomorrow night against the Broncos.
I don't know why you guys got to hold that over my head. We all know that Manziel was a joke. He was a joke when he was playing. He's a joke now. Come on. But, yeah, seriously, as a fan of the Denver Broncos, and knowing all of the holes that they have in their defense, which is everything except for Justin Simmons, Bradley Chubb, Derek Wolfe, and Von Miller, I gotta say, if there's any chance for David Johnson to really show his true colors and show people that he really is still the man, it is against Denver's defense. And this Thursday, I feel like he's going to have at least 100 yards. I don't know if he's going to have a scoring touchdown. Maybe they're going to give it to somebody else. Maybe they'll let Josh Rosen throw the ball a little bit more over the obviously underappreciated, terrible secondary of the Broncos. It'll be very interesting to see how David Johnson responds to the god-awful run defense of the Broncos. Hopefully he'll not trample over them too badly, but I feel like he's going to get at least 100 yards.
Well, David Johnson,
Book it. 100 yards, David Johnson next week.
All right, bold prediction. But yeah, in all seriousness, I'm hoping that David Johnson finds his groove, gets back to what we know and know him as, and that's a top 3, top 5 guys in the NFL in terms of rushing. So now it's time that we're going to get into our picks. Scott, will you join us here with some predictions, games, picks?
I would love to. I would very much love to.
All right, week 7. Why don't we start with tomorrow night's game? We got the Denver Broncos and the Arizona Cardinals. I'm going to go first. I'm going to take the Denver Broncos in this one. I think that I think the running attack of Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman are going to have a big day against the Cardinals team that is the worst rush defense in the league. I believe so, and so I think that they're going to be able to take advantage of that, and that's going to allow Case Keenum to open up with the pass game again with guys like Emmanuel Sanders. And when you're playing a young quarterback, the one thing you got to do is you got to pressure him, and with the pressure from Bradley Chubb and Von Miller is going to be too much for the Cardinals to take. So I'm going to take the Broncos in
Yeah,
this one.
you nailed it on the head with that last point. I just think the Cardinals' offense right now it just can't get anything really going, and with Von Miller getting a pass rush, it's going to be tough for Josh Rosen to really get any time scanning the field. I just don't see much from the Cardinals as a team, and I think the Broncos are just higher talent level, even if they are struggling in the rush defense. But I think the Broncos are just a better team. They should win this one.
Again, as a Broncos fan, it's hard to say that the Cardinals are going to win, but for me, the Cardinals are going to win. They're more than likely going to be able to figure out all of the little tricks that Vance Joseph thinks that he's coming up with. And, of course, with Philip Lindsay and Royce Freeman, they're going to have a really good day. They're both going to do very well. But there's also the very slight chance that the Denver rush defense lets a third week go by where they allow somebody to get 200-plus rush yards on them, a single person. So I'm really scared. I highly doubt that David Johnson's going to get to that level. Hopefully that'll break the 2-week streak so far. But I'm going to put more faith in the Cardinals, so there is a slight chance that Justin and Nicholas are correct. Hopefully the Broncos will win, but I predict that the Cardinals will win.
Bold move there, Cotton. But I mean, you always take a little bit of skepticism when it comes to your team, and I mean, you also have to have some skepticism, especially when you're playing like a guy like David Johnson. When you've let up the last 2 weeks, you let Isaiah Crowell, and obviously, I mean, there's no stopping Todd Gurley, so the man's just going to run on. If he wants to run 200 yards on you, he's going to run for 200 yards.
I also feel like our dear friend Larry Fitzgerald is going to have a good day because the secondary hasn't been able to figure out what's going on these past
I
weeks.
do not think that because I think that Chris Harris will take care of that situation. One of my favorite corners in the league and the guy that's never really talked about. Titans Chargers. Nick, the stick, start us off.
I'm going to go with the Chargers. I think the Chargers are playing pretty well right now. Second in that division. The Titans, I feel like they're just very inconsistent. They last week they got shut out, 21-0 to Ravens. Mariota was sacked 11 times last week. That's very frightening to see for any offense. Philip Rivers and Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen, they just got it going right now. So I expect them to keep cruising and pull this win off.
I hate the Chargers. Chargers are going to win. I don't need to explain. I agree with Nicholas on everything.
This is an interesting game for me because, I mean, as much as I want to go with the Chargers, and I think I am going to go with the Chargers, the Titans are the most unpredictable team in the NFL because they can either show up one week and play phenomenal under Marcus Mariota, or they can completely be duds, and they were duds last week.
Nice.
And the Titans are in a surprisingly, from what we've, and they'll take last week as an example, and then I believe it was 2 or 3 weeks ago they played the Philadelphia Eagles and stunned that they were able to pull that game off in overtime. So it's just a matter of which Titans team is going to show up, and that unpredictability makes me go with the Chargers because I think that the pass game and Phillip Rivers has just been too good for the Titans to be able to handle. And speaking of the Eagles, we got the Eagles playing in the link, but they've got the 5-1 Carolina Panthers. Scott?
This is going to be a very tight game, and I'm going to try to throw my biases about Cam Newton out the window. I think the Panthers are going to be able to win it, but I feel like it's going to be very tight until the very end. He's going to have to pull out a fourth quarter comeback in order to really ensure that the game's going to go. If it's not going to be a last drive type of game, it's going to be an overtime game. But I'm going to have to go with the Panthers.
I think Carson Wentz has played pretty well over the last few weeks. He's gotten into a rhythm coming off his injury. Alshon Jeffrey playing well. Eagles had that little running back situation. They don't really know they're playing. Playing Clement or Smallwood. Two solid guys, though, but the injury to Ajayi definitely hurt him. But I don't know. I feel like playing at home really helps the Eagles out on this one. The defense has picked it up a little bit, but I don't know. I feel like Carson Wentz can pull this game off. I think they'll be able to contain Cam Newton, and I think they should win this one. Probably, I would say a late touchdown for the Eagles. Cap it off.
I know that this was a game that I had the Eagles losing in our division games. And that's not changing for me, in my opinion. I just think that I expected the Eagles' defense to really be better than it actually is. And, I mean, due in part to the secondary, and they've just been able to letting up too many passing yards, passing touchdowns. I mean, Corey Davis had a game on them last week. But the Eagles it's very interesting because they had a very strong week one. In the middle of from week 2 until before last week, they've just been not the same team that we saw last year, not the same team we saw in week 1, and then all of a sudden we see the same Eagles team that we saw last week against the Giants. And maybe it's just a division game that gets you riled up, but the Panthers are not a team that you take lightly in the fact that ever. And Cam Newton is just a guy that can hurt you in multiple ways. Devin Funchess is really especially after a strong performance last week. I'm expecting him to have another big week, so I'm going to take Carolina in this one, even though it's tough for me to bet against the Eagles in the link. But don't be surprised if the Eagles do pull this one off, but I am going to go with the Panthers. Vikings and the Jets. The Jets will win if Jason Myers can kick another 7 field goals, but they have to get in position for that. Vikings and the Jets. I'm going to go with the Vikings. It's going to be interesting because I think that the Jets are going to have a little bit of bad blood against Kirk Cousins because they handed him a blank check, said write any amount you want on it, and he still declined it because he wanted to win. He didn't think he was going to win with the Jets. Todd Bowles definitely going to probably be sending pressure, but it's tough to bet against a team where one of your receivers has gone over 100 yards every single game this season. Adam Thielen, he just might do it again.
He's going to do it.
You heard it from the stick. He is going to do it again. But Adam Thielen's been so impressive. I'm a big fan of the Vikings. And this defense might be too much for Sam Darnold to take, especially with Danielle Hunter at 7 sacks, tying with J.J. Watt as for most of the NFL. I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Yeah, Jets have looked better the last few weeks. Even Sam Darnold has looked like he's been a little bit more consistent, but last time the Jets played a really good defense, they played the Jaguars, and that was a mess. And they're playing another good defense this week against Minnesota. And Minnesota also has a great offense with Kirk Cousins, Diggs, and as we said, Thielen probably going to go for another 100. So Minnesota should win this game. Don't see the Jets kicking 7 more field goals. They're lucky if they get a couple, but no, this is a game Minnesota should win.
I feel like this is definitely going to be a ground type of game. If Dalvin Cook even plays next week, will be a game time decision. But I feel like Powell and Crowell are definitely going to be running the ball down the Vikings' throats as much as humanly possible. And it's going to be interesting to see how they can really stack up to people like Dalvin Cook or Adam Thielen or the rest of the mean purple people eaters. We'll have to see how that turns out, but I'm going to have to take the under on this one and say that the Jets are going to win, only because Kirk Cousins has been so unpredictable and inconsistent this season.
And we got a dark horse sleeper pick there from Scott with the Jets, but I like the way he's thinking there. We'll go with the Bills and the Colts. Nick.
two really bad teams.
I know this is a game we circled. And you're like, this is gonna be this is the battle for the first overall pick.
But honestly, just because he's playing so well, I think Andrew Luck could will the Colts to victory in this game. He's one of the only players in this game that
the
is
toilet bowl.
considered a superstar, because LaShawn McCoy is falling off the face of the earth slowly. And Luck's been playing phenomenal. You know what? And Luck could have another game like he did last week. Drop 30 points. That Bills offense isn't going to drop 30 points. So I'm going to go with the Colts just because of how well Andrew Luck's been playing to start the season off.
I feel like Josh Allen is going to be hurdling the entirety of the Indianapolis Colts defense at some point or another. It's going to be very fun to watch, but with Eric Ebron and T.Y. Hilton as his weapons, Andrew Luck is going to have a distinct advantage, so I'm going to have to go with the Colts on this one.
Yeah, definitely. We're talking about the toilet bowl here. Well, at the beginning of the season, I think that both teams have exceeded my expectations in how they've been able to compete, been able to perform, and both teams have been have surprised me. But I am going to give this one to the Colts. I think that Andrew Luck in the offense actually doesn't look too bad. I think they get T.Y. Hilton back this week. We're starting to see a little bit more versatility in the Colts backfield with the combination of Marlon Mack, Nyheim Hines, and it is so tough to bet on the Bills when Nathan Peterman is under center.
Yeah.
Sorry, let me correct myself. I forgot that Josh Allen was hurt. I forgot that Nathan Peterman isn't starting next week. Who is it? Anderson. Eric Anderson.
Right.
Anderson, new kid. He's apparently going to be starting the next 2 or 3 games, according to our special source, Brian Colazzo. And it's going to be interesting to see how he can stack up to a professional defense like the Colts.
No shot. Colts win by 17.
No shot.
No shot.
Points spread. All right.
Well, I think Andrew Luck could drop 30 points, and I don't think this Bills offense is going to drop more than 20.
We'll have to see how.
Unless LaShawn McCoy decides to wake up, but I doubt it because he's on my fantasy team.
And also, how bad could this new kid be? I mean, compared to Nate Peterman. We'll see.
Who knows? I could be a better quarterback than Nate Peterman. All right, on to the next game.
Alrighty. The New England Patriots, after a strong Sunday night performance, traveled to a team that did not have a lot of luck against an AFC East team last week. Chicago Bears. Very interesting matchup. I'm going with the Bears.
I'm
going with the Bears. John Fox isn't the coach anymore.
Who's the coach of the Bears?
I can't remember his name, but Nagy, right? Our undisclosed source. I am going to go with the Bears here. I think that they're going to come back. They're a team that a lot of momentum riding around the what they've been able to do this season, and now they probably have a chip on their shoulder. We're going to see a little bit more aggressive play calling, and I think for the most part the offense is actually starting to click a little bit more with the versatility of Tariq Cohen and Allen Robinson going back to his old form, and other guys getting involved, like Taylor Gabriel's had a couple of great back-to-back games. I want to see a little bit more production out of Jordan Howard, but with the Patriots defense that's been playing a little bit shaky regardless of whatever the offense has been playing, I think the defense is going to get back on track, which, surprising enough, was the team leading the league in sacks, did not record a single sack against a very piss-poor offensive line like the Dolphins. But I'm going to go on my sleeper of the week and my upset of the week, the Chicago Bears over the New England Patriots.
I'm going to go with the Patriots just because I think the Patriots are good at one thing. They're good at getting the ball out of Tom Brady's hands quickly. Quick passes to Edelman, little dumb balls to run back. Brady just knows how to stop a pass rush, and that's one of the Bears' huge strengths, especially with Khalil Mack. So I think that Patriots offense could really keep that pass rush in check. And the way Josh Gordon and Gronk and Edelman and Sony Michel looked really good last week, I think this Patriots offense should be enough to outscore Chicago's offense. And I'll give this one to Tom Brady and the Pats.
I have too much respect for Tom Brady and Belichick to give it to the Bears, all as much as I am enjoying the play the Bears have been bringing. But my bold prediction of this game is going to be that Rex Burkhead is going to be the breakout star for the Patriots this week. I have a feeling that he's going to be kind of like the dark horse of this game. He's going to be the one that hasn't been scouted as much because of Sony Michel's breakout this year, and it's going to be cool to see how Khalil Mack can really respond to Belichick's play calling. So I'm going to have to go with the Patriots on this win. I'm going to say it's going to be within 10 points.
Very interesting. We'll. It's going to be one of those games of the week that you're going to watch, even though whether you believe in the Bears or not, it's definitely a game to watch. Talk about a couple other teams that are both in similar situations, haven't really won many games, but have definitely exceeded expectations. Browns and the Bucks. Browns are going to be traveling on the road to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Browns defense been playing really well. Nick, why don't you start this one off? What do you got?
I'm gonna go with. This is tough one. I don't know. The Buccaneers have looked solid. I'm gonna go with the Bucks. I think Jameis Winston's finally gonna get it going. Mike Evans has also been asleep the last couple. Well, not asleep. He hasn't had the weeks that he had with Fitzpatrick. But I think after the bye week, they're gonna get it going a little bit. Mike Evans is gonna have a few huge plays of Jameis Winston. They're gonna take some shots down the field. And I think we're going to see more of that Bucks team we saw the first couple of weeks, even though Fitzpatrick's not a quarterback anymore. I think that high-powered offense is going to come back because they got guys like Jackson and Evans that can really stretch the field and make huge plays. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. I think they're a better team than what they've been the last few weeks.
I have very little respect for Jameis Winston's play. I feel like he's been piss poor since he came back, and as shaky as Fitzpatrick was, he was doing okay. I mean, he was probably the second least impressive 300 plus yard passer on right before Case Keenum, and I feel like Jameis Winston's just going to shoot the Bucks offense in the foot. So we're going to have to. I'm personally going to have to go with good old Baker Mayfield and the Browns on this one.
Like I said, definitely two teams that have exceeded expectations for this season. Especially with the way the Cleveland Browns defense has been playing, and the way that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, even really without a consistent run game, have been able to throw the ball. Partially, in fact, to Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing for 3 straight 400-yard games, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. But hey, it's the NFL; anything can happen. But Jameis Winston is back under center. But the thing about Jameis Winston is he tends to force a lot of passes. And against a Browns team that actually is leading the NFL in takeaways, that's huge. They're probably going to force the ball to Mike Evans. We're going to see a lot of pressure coming from Myles Garrett. I think that the Cleveland Browns defense, with the way they've been able to take the ball away, has just been phenomenal. And they're actually tied for first when it comes to point differential. They were at a +7 takeaway differential, just as much as the takeaway. So as long as Baker Mayfield can protect the ball, I think that he's going to have a great day, especially with guys like Jarvis Landry, David Njoku, Antonio Callaway. They're against a very not so good secondary in the Buccaneers. So I'm going to take the Browns on the road in this one as well. And really, for first place in the AFC South, Texans and the Jaguars. Can the Jaguars get back to what they've been doing? Scott, why don't you start this one off?
It's definitely going to be an interesting game to watch if you're a fan of defense. I don't know how much of an offensive game this is going to be, especially with Blake Bortles at the helm and Deshaun Watson kind of being a little bit shaky. It's going to be interesting to see how J.J. Watt matches up with the Jaguars' offensive line now that they did sign good old Eric Flowers. Now that they're going to be hurting for certain if he rolls in, they're going to have a field day. I don't know who's going to have more fun between him or Jadeveon Clowney. But it's going to be interesting to see how the Jaguars' defense can kind of recoup after getting smacked around by the Cowboys this past weekend. So, with that said, I'm going to take the under and go with the Texans on this one just because I feel like their defense will have more takeaways with Bortles at the helm.
I'm not worried about the Jaguars' defense. I think they'll come back and step up. Just I don't know what their offense is going to do. Their offense has looked really poor the last few weeks, especially without Fournette. Yeldon's played solid, but like just the passing game is just nowhere to be found. And I think the Texans just have better weapons on offense. I think the Texans, even going against a better Jaguars defense, guys like DeAndre Hopkins can still make some plays for them, and Watson can always use his legs. I think the Texans are actually going to win this one. Um, I was always huge on Jacksonville, but just the way their offense looks right now, I just can't see them putting up many points on the board, and I just think Texans have better playmakers on that side of the field, and I think they'll pull this one off. It'll be a close one, but I think Texans could win this one.
This is a really close game. I mean, I look at both teams and I say both of these teams have a shot to win the AFC South. I mean, I wasn't so big on the Texans and I wasn't buying it, and I'm still not really buying it when the fact that this is going to be a team that's going to make a huge playoff push. They can get there, but how much are they going to really been able to compete? And it goes the same with the Jaguars. As good as their defense has been, except for last week, or I mean, I guess the last 2 weeks. But I mean, I'm going to give them a pass because the Chiefs' offense is just as electric as any in the league right now. It all falls on the shoulder of Blake Bortles and the fact that, well, you know what, he doesn't have a lot of guys in his wide receiving core. You know, he's got Keelan Cole, he's got D.D. Westbrook and DJ Chark and Dante Moncrief, but I mean, where are the big name guys? I mean, I thought the biggest mistake the Jaguars could have done was let Allen Robinson go, but they did, and now they're suffering for it. But at the same time, they're home, and the Houston Texans have been pretty inconsistent. They had a really rough start, but they are catching fire, and the momentum does swing in the favor of Houston, but in close games, I always go with the home team. I think the Jaguars are going to figure it out defensively, force a few turnovers, put Blake Bortles into a couple of good situations, and ultimately put themselves back on top.
Now, a greater prediction for you, Conn, would what do you think the total score of the game is going to be? Because I don't think that either of them are going to go too much further than double digits.
If you're giving me a prediction, I mean 17-14 seems pretty good to me. I mean, with both defenses playing the way they are, inconsistency with both their offenses, Jaguars need to get a pass game going, the Texans need to get a run game going. It's just too lopsided, but definitely a low-scoring game here. 17-14, Jaguars pull one out by the skin of their teeth. Lions and the Dolphins. Interesting to say the least. Scott?
Matt Patricia's kind of been showing a bit of promise. I mean, ever since that win against the Patriots, he's been having much more sound decision making, and he's kind of putting together a really good culture up in Detroit. I will have to say, the Dolphins have been much more impressive regarding overcoming diversity, especially with the fisherman suplex that was performed on Danny Amendola and his ability to bounce back from such a incident, and being able to hold his head about it. Like, honestly, if any of us were thrown on the field during our college football days, we'd definitely have to scrap. But just to see that kind of maturity from Adam Gase's team is beautiful to see. It's going to be another close game. I'll have to go with the Dolphins just because Kenyon Drake has been looking very promising, and who could bet against the greatest safety in the league, Brock Osweiler?
Oh my gosh.
Who could bet against that giant?
I love what I'm seeing from Miami's running attack. Just as Frank Gore, you know, he's turning back the clock right now, 100 yards.
The Benjamin Button of the NFL, right?
Yeah, no, he's been looking good. No, Brock Osweiler, he played really well last week, but can I put my money on Brock Osweiler to do it 2 games in a row? I don't know. I just find it tough because those games from Houston when he was playing there, he had DeAndre Hopkins, and it was just painful to watch. And Matt Stafford's been turning up. Detroit's been playing better, and just Stafford and Tate and Marvin Jones, like they've been playing well on offense. So I'm gonna go with the Lions just because, not because I don't like Miami. I think the rushing attack and like the team's been playing really well.
I mean, you shouldn't like Miami, but that's beside the point.
Yeah, I just that's a talent thing. I can't rely on Brock Osweiler. I can't do it. So I'm gonna go with the Lions.
Now this is the benefit that I give the Lions, and this is the reason why I think the Lions might win. Matt Patricia has been the defensive coordinator for the Patriots. He knows this Miami team. He's played against them the last couple of years. He knows exactly what Adam Gase likes to do. If there's ever an out-of-conference coach that, besides obviously Vance Joseph, who is a former coach for the Miami Dolphins, even though I'm pretty sure the Dolphins dismantled the Broncos last year. I fell asleep during that game. It was a close game. Woke up, and all of a sudden I was like, what the heck happened? The Dolphins were winning huge. But if there's anything that Matt Patricia knows exactly how to stop this Dolphins team. But I am and this is usually the time when it's close with teams' talents, I usually go in favor of the other team. But I'm taking the Dolphins in this one, and here's why. It goes with the same thing back with the Bucs. Matt Stafford is got a big arm. He can throw the ball. I'm not saying he's going to have a bad day, but he tends to force passes a lot. And you're playing a Miami secondary that maybe people don't know is leading the league in interceptions with 11. 11 in 6 weeks. Their turnover differential is, I think, in the 4 or 5. So, I mean, they're not really turning the ball over. They're creating turnovers on defense. With Stafford forcing passes, and the way that Xavier Howard's been playing this season has been phenomenal. And I'm still questioning the run game with Detroit. I do like Kerryon Johnson. I think that he's starting to become that lead back. But, yes, as skeptical as I am with Brock Osweiler, I think that Matt Stafford's going to throw maybe 2 or 3 interceptions against this Miami secondary, put him in a favorable position, and I think that any quarterback will be able to capitalize on what Miami's defense has been able to give them. So I am actually going to take the Dolphins in this one due to the fact that I think they're going to force a couple turnovers against a Matt Stafford who threw 5 interceptions opening day against the Jets. And so that next game will be the Saints on the road in Baltimore. Tough game there.
It's a tough game. Baltimore just had a shutout last week against Tennessee. Drew Brees on the other side just broke the all-time passing yards record. 70,000 plus yards. It's insane. What a great career for him. Just the way the Saints offense is looking right now, though, with Kamara and Thomas, I can't bet against the Saints team. I just love the way Drew Brees has been playing. The Ravens have looked good, but just when you look at 2 teams, Flacco, Brees, I just think big advantage Brees, and quarterbacks are most important position in this game, so I'm going with the Saints.
As consistent as the Ravens' defense has been, there's no shot they're going to be able to really hold down the Saints' offense for that long. With the 1-2 punch that's back with the Saints, like Alvin Kamara and Ingram are now back together, being able to do the 2-headed monster deal again. Michael Thomas, of course, being as wonderful as always, and Ben Watson being moderately decent, being able to take up a few linebacker, a little bit of coverage going on, a little bit stealing all the thunder from some of the linebackers that are trying to get into coverage. Drew Brees is, in my opinion, the best, most consistent passer in NFL history. You can't have as many 4,000 plus yard seasons as he has and not be considered that. So with this, and also the special teams on the Saints has been very underrated. They've been able to hold a lot of people behind the 20 on punts and on kickoffs. It's going to be very interesting to see how this matchup is going to be. But I will go with the Saints on this one.
I'm also taking the Saints. I think that Nick, you said it well. You can only hold this Saints offense down for so long. There's just so many big name guys that can get the ball into Kamara, to Ingram. You have Drew Brees throwing to Michael Thomas, and Ted Ginn. Traquan Smith had a big game last Monday night. Maybe they get him more involved. But, I mean, with the way the Saints have their offense is, they've had a week to prepare for it. Yes, the Baltimore Ravens are home. And, yes, the offense has been playing well. And the defense has been holding the offenses to little yards. You've played good offenses, but you have not played an offense like the Saints. So I'm going to go with the Saints as well. Redskins and the Cowboys. I'll start this one off. Going with the Skins. just like you're not buying Brock Osweiler, I'm not buying Dak Prescott. I think that you caught the Jacksonville Jaguars off guard. You're while you look good, he made good decisions. He was getting the ball out to his guys. Cole Beasley had a phenomenal game. I'm not buying it 2 weeks in a row. Alex Smith has got his work cut out for him, though, with his Cowboys defense. This is ranked in the top 5 in terms of yardage, but this is a division game. I mean, they usually give it to the home team, but Alex Smith and the Redskins are going to figure out a way to beat this team, and Dak Prescott's going to have to try and throw on Josh Norman, and that's not an easy task.
With as much respect as the Cowboys have commanded in these last few weeks of play, how much more respect could you get than the greatest breakout pairing since 2006 in Alex Smith and Vernon Davis? They've really been doing very well for the last few weeks. As old and decrepit as Vernon Davis may be, and as experienced and fine wine-like as Alex Smith has become, his play calling has only gotten better, and he understands his offense very well. He may not have all the weapons around him that he had while he was with the Chiefs, or even when he was in San Francisco for that matter, but he's been doing very well with what he had, and it's going to be really interesting to see how he can play. So I'm going to have to go with the Skins on this one.
I didn't even think about that when I was thinking fantasy this year, that Vernon Davis played with Alex Smith in the chemistry. I should have thought of that.
It's been over a decade, man.
No. That's why we bring him on there. You know?
Yeah, there we go.
Breakout stars in 2006, 12 years in a row.
Oh my gosh.
I agree with what you said. I don't believe in Dak Prescott either. Like, he had one good week against a really good defense, but I have more faith in Alex Smith to get the ball where it needs to be. Redskins have been playing really well. They've played good teams tough. They have a good record right now. They're playing really well. Even though they're on the road, I just think the Skins have been playing much more consistently, and they're getting more consistent play out of the quarterback, and that's key in this game, and especially in a divisional matchup. So I'm going to go with Alex Smith and the Skins.
I will say, even though all three of us kind of swept the Cowboys under the rug, their defense has been looking exceptional these past
Exceptionally
weeks.
well.
They've been looking very good so far, and best respect to them as well.
Absolutely. I completely agree. All the young talent that they've been able to acquire over the last few years is finally coming into its own. Rams and the 49ers, I mean, I really don't have to say much. Rams are going to continue their streak, go undefeated again against the 49ers, as well as the 49ers have been able to play. You got to play against Todd Gurley, and there's not so much I can say about Todd Gurley other than the fact that you cannot stop this man.
Yep, the Rams are going to go 7-0 because, like you said, Todd Gurley's just been phenomenal. He had 200 rushing yards last week. Dude just killing it in the passing and running game, and I expect more from him this week.
Of course, the Rams, for another year, making the word Gurley a compliment when it comes to the game of football. Rams, let's go.
My only challenge with the Rams is that I believe they'll be without Cooper Kupp, and that's big. But you just throw Todd Gurley out there in the slot and watch him go.
So talented.
Yes.
Really, with Sean McVay's strategy, you're not going to really see too much issue with that.
No, I mean, he's not going to do it, but it's just the Rams are just too good. They're going to go 7-0. 2 weeks in a row, we see the Chiefs, Sunday Night Football. This time they're going to be hosting the Bengals. And I know that I've raved about the Bengals and how I've been very impressed with them. And I think that they can make a push for the AFC North come the end of the season. I'm still going with the Chiefs. I think that they play really well at home. As good as the Bengals defense has been, you've just got so many weapons on offense, and Mahomes is going to get back on the stick this week.
Yeah.
With the winning.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the Bengals offense could keep up with the Chiefs offense. The Patriots were able to do so. Both teams dropping 40 points last week. I can't see Cincinnati doing that. Dalton has been playing well. AJ Green is top 5 receiver in the league, but Mahomes with Hunt and Hill and Kelsey, they've just been clicking, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Should be another win for KC.
Again, I'm going to have to throw my biases out the window, even though the Chiefs kind of shellacked the Broncos just a few weeks ago. I'm gonna have to go with the Chiefs. I have too much respect for what Andy Reid is doing with Patrick Mahomes. I see a similar strategy now as he had when he was with Michael Vick all those years ago. But the difference between Vick and Mahomes is that Mahomes has all the talent around him rather than just the speed and the strength. He has the mind to be able to call the plays. He has the ability to make something out of nothing, being able to switch hands at a moment's notice. It's really too much to really handle. And to have all the weapons around him, like Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, and Kareem Hunt, it's really going to be overwhelming to the Bengals defense. So I'm going to have to go with the Chiefs.
And we'll finish off with Monday Night Football. The Giants, the New York Football Giants, traveling to Atlanta to take on Matt Ryan and the Falcons, who have just placed Devontae Freeman on the IR. All right, who do you got? Nick, we'll start with you.
Julio Jones probably on like 200 receiving yards this game. Well, the dude is on average like 140 yards a game right now or something like that.
No touchdowns.
Zero.
Yeah, zero. I don't know how. I think it was last time we were here. I'm like he was on pace for 2,000 yards receiving and 0 touchdowns, which is unbelievable. But just this Giants offense that they can, besides Barkley, like I said earlier, they can't get anything going. The offensive line is atrocious. Falcons have been looking solid. Calvin Ridley's been huge for them the last few weeks, really helping out Matt Ryan a lot, having more than just one option in Julio Jones. Tevin Coleman's been stepping up well. Last few weeks he hasn't performed as well as his earlier weeks, but maybe just because teams are adjusted more to his style of play rather than Devontae Freeman's. Only having to prepare for one is much easier than preparing for both. But this Falcons team, I think, is just much better than this Giants team, and should be another Falcons win.
I agree with everything Nick said. Although I have to say, I feel like Matt Ryan is going to have a very big game. It's a very big game. Julio is finally going to get the coveted touchdown this season. He's going to get at least one, if not two. And Calvin Ridley is going to get one, if not two. I feel like the Falcons are going to be able to score at least 35 points on the Giants defense, who've been a little bit shaky these last few weeks, so I'll go with the Falcons on this one.
This one's going to be a shootout. And because it's going to, I think that the Giants are going to, they're playing against a very broken defense that we wouldn't be saying this but they have just been losing guy after guy after guy. Now Devontae Freeman gets put on the IR. We're not even going to see kicker Matt Bryant, who's
he's hurt. Yeah.
He's going to be hurt for the Falcons. But yet we do see the inconsistency when it comes to the Giants' offense, and how and with a guy like Vic Beasley, he's going to be putting pressure on him. But on the other side, I think that if there was ever a game that the Giants needed to prove themselves and get themselves back into a position of seeing, exactly where we need to be, this is the game for the Giants to just say, hey, and this is the game, obviously, I think this is the game for Eli Manning. I think that if he can't take advantage of this game, then he shouldn't be the quarterback in New York anymore. With all of that being said, I'm taking the upset on this one. I'm going with the Giants. I think that Saquon Barkley is going to take advantage of a very broken Falcons defense. I think that Eli Manning is going to have his best game all year. And the Giants, I'm really leaving this down to both defenses. And the Giants' defense is better than the Falcons' defense as of right now with all these injuries. I am going to say the Giants finally end this drought that the inconsistency with the offense, and Odell finds himself not one, but 2 touchdowns. So that will do it from us here. I'd like to thank Scott for joining us halfway through. He's had things to do, came in a little bit late, but his opinion and what he brings to the table is always, we enjoy it, and brings a different element to it, a lot of stats and stuff like that.
I'll always be here for the comic relief. You don't have to worry about that.
Yes, Johnny Manziel. I'd like to thank our undisclosed source, Ryan Clausen, for a couple of facts over there, and of course that'll do it for Harrison Conn and the Stick. We'll be back next week to go over what we saw in Week 7, talk about our Week 8 predictions, and so on. So from Nick Smith and myself, I'm Justin Conley. We will see you next week.